Hi, I'm Rolf Rosenkrantz, editor with Devex, and I'm talking today with Adva Saldinger, who is in New York covering the Shared Value Leadership Summit. Adva, this is the second and last day, and I understand there's been lots of talk about what executives can do to push shared value. What have you heard?
Yes, absolutely. I think a lot of people are talking about how it's essential to have buy-in from the CEO and from sort of the C-suite to really be able to embrace shared value and then integrate it throughout a company. We certainly heard that from Janet Food at Nestle, who talked about that being sort of one of the key drivers for their embrace of shared value, and that it's one thing that's really essential for companies to do. We heard from several people who are involved in partnerships in this space, which are obviously a critical piece in achieving some of these environmental and social benefits. And we heard from Zia Khan at the Rockefeller Foundation, who talked about when entering into a partnership that it's critical that problems be important to all of the partners and not just be something that all of the partners care about. That really it being important to the business interests of the company is a critical piece of that. And you also talked about looking at goals and not strategies when approaching a partnership and a challenge, and really starting at the goal and letting the strategies come about more organically, embracing sort of the benefits that each of the partners brings to the situation. And also heard from David Browning at TechnoServe, who went through a really great list of sort of recommendations that he has in partnerships from learnings that his organization has sort of gone through. And so he talked about really being authentic and creating space for innovation in organizations and in partnerships, and also talked about being young and that millennials are really a key part of this, both because it's really important for them to work for companies that care and where they feel like they're making a positive impact on the world, and because as consumers they're also going to be pushing for companies that are embracing good and making social progress. Just really interesting group of recommendations.
Fascinating. And now what's next for this? What's coming up next with regards to research or other initiatives that we should be looking out for?
Yeah, absolutely. Yesterday we talked a little bit about the need for more engagement on the investor side on these issues, and we heard a lot more about that today. We heard from Mark Kramer, who's the founder of FSG and has authored a number of papers with Michael Porter about a paper that they're working on now that's expected out by the end of this year, and the paper is really going to focus on shared value and the investor perspective. And the plan is for that to look at, questions of, why don't shareholders and stockholders and boards really get shared value and sort of the business implications of addressing some of these social and environmental challenges. And so he looked at creating a lens through which investors could sort of view some of these social and environmental factors and making them look at them as material issues. We heard from Jean Rogers, who's the CEO of Sustainability Accounting Standards Board, and she really, that board has been looking at some of these and looking at how to incorporate them into existing reporting systems through the Form 10K that companies are required to file with SEC, where they have to address anything that could be material to the business. And so looking at some of these social and environmental factors through that lens of materiality. Heard from Chad Spittler at BlackRock about how they're trying to incorporate it in their business. It's got technical at times, obviously, sort of looking at some of the finances, but really interesting ways about sort of bringing into the mainstream some of these ideas behind shared value investing.
Great. And now what can we expect from you as you're making your way back to DC and rolling out some of your coverage?
I've had some really great conversations with companies like Nestle and Visa, and also a number of NGOs who are increasingly working in this space and partnering around these ideas of shared value. And so I'll be looking to be writing more sort of about how the NGOs can play into this space. I'll be certainly writing more about some of these recommendations around best practices for partnership. and also really looking at the continuing mix of players who are working on these issues of shared value and how NGOs and the private sector and donors can be best working together, really addressing some of these key environmental and social issues through a shared value approach.
Wonderful. And obviously, all of that coverage is going to be on the Devex website and at devex.com/impact. Thank you so much, Adva, and have a good trip home.
Yep, thanks.